All right, my biggest takeaway from the latest college football playoff rankings is this. Florida State's hopes at making the college football playoff are dead. They have no chance of making the college football playoff, and honestly, rightfully so. Without Jordan Travis now for the rest of the year, there is no way you could sell me that the Florida State Seminoles are truly one of the 4 best teams in all the country. You can't do it because there's no argument to be made for that to be the case. They have not passed the eye test, nor have they passed the resume test. That's the 2 reasons why they got not only dropped down from 4 to 5 in the latest college football playoff rankings, it's why that their hopes are dead. That there is no path for them to get back inside the top 4 either this weekend or next weekend. Look, Seminole fans, don't be mad at me. I'm just a messenger. You want to have someone to be mad at? You want to direct your anger towards something? Direct it towards your own team. Because sure, the Jordan Travis injury is absolutely a factor as to why Florida State dropped out of the top 4 and why I'm calling their playoff hopes dead. But it's also the fact that they couldn't take care of business up until this point. Like, you want to talk about giving them a chance, and you want to cite Cardale Jones and Ohio State back in 2014 where they made the college football playoff with Jones being a 3rd-string quarterback at the time. Well, guess what? If you want to make that case, then how about this? Don't escape a 2-point victory against Boston College. Don't sneak by a bad Clemson team in overtime. Don't trail going to the 4th quarter at home against a Duke team where you need Riley Leonard to get hurt in order to spark a comeback and win that game. Don't sleepwalk past an awful 3-8 Pitt team and win that game 24-7. Don't, against a 6-5 Miami team at home, win by a touchdown. And how about this? When you are paying North Alabama millions of dollars to come to your building for them to get smacked around, don't go and lose in the first quarter 13-0. This is your fault. You did it to yourself because you didn't take care of business up until this point. The Jordan Travis injury, it's tragic, it's awful. I feel awful for him and the team. But the Jordan Travis injury alone is not why Florida State is out of the top 4, and it's not why their playoff hopes are done. It's in part that I just rattled off 6 different games Florida State has played against out of 11 that were closer than they should have been. Where Florida State did not look like a good team, where they played down to their competition. You can't sell me on being a top 4 team in the country when half of your games you are playing down to the level of competition. That is not the mark of a great team. So it stinks that Jordan Travis unfortunately got hurt. It's awful. But even before then, Florida State was nowhere near a playoff team and finally, rightfully so, got moved out of the top 4. And again, you want to invoke Seminole fans, Cardale Jones, and 2014 Ohio State winning the national title as your reason for still being included in the top 4 and having a backup quarterback not expel you from the rankings? Well, here's the thing. Go back and look at that 2014 Ohio State team. By the way, started with a 2nd-string quarterback in J.T. Barrett that year before 3rd-string Cardale Jones came in late in the year. They blew everybody out. Go back and look at the schedule. They dominated. They took care of most of their opponents like a good team does. And then when Cardale Jones came in, the one start he made, he left no doubt. 59-0 to Wisconsin. Just blew them out of the water in the Big Ten title game. That helped ease the committee's anxieties about if Ohio State is truly a top 4 team. So this is not going to make a difference to me, but if you are Florida State, bare minimum, if you want to have a prayer to get back into the top 4, what you got to do is you got to go into the swamp on Saturday and beat Florida with their own backup quarterback, by the way, 35-0. Just blow them out of the water, leave no doubt from the start, and then the following week against Louisville, beat them 45-0 to be back in the conversation, to have a chance at being considered again in the top 4. Does anyone think that Florida State's going to do that? If you are, you're a fool. Just because we've not seen that. That's not who they have been. They have played down to their competition. They have never really, outside of a Wake Forest here, a Syracuse there, they've never looked like a dominant team at any point this season. And so there's no reason for me to think with Tate Rodemaker, now a quarterback, that they're going to go into the swamp and lay a 40 spot on him. Then go into the ACC title game and lay a 45 burger on Louisville, dominate both of those teams, and walk out of there peacocking around like they just dominated. Haven't done it, don't expect it. So Florida State, it's been a great year. 11-0, you're done. Even if you're 13-0, even if you somehow win these next two games, I don't see it happening. You're not a college football playoff team. Your hopes are dead. And we saw the committee make that move here to bump Washington, rightfully so, up to 4, push Florida State down to 5. But Florida State being out of the rankings, or out of the playoff picture, I should say, also sparks another thought I want to talk to you about, and that's this. Now, as we get closer, we're just 2 weeks away from the final rankings being revealed. There is more and more of a chance of a conference getting 2 teams into the playoff. Didn't seem likely for most of the year, but now I think there's a real chance we could see a conference putting 2 teams into the college football playoff. So I want to discuss is which is the most likely, which conference is the most likely. I think there are 3 conferences that have a chance to put 2 teams in. I'll give you my rankings from most likely to least likely. Number 1 is the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 right now with Washington and Oregon, both in the top 6, had the best chance of getting 2 teams in. Second most likely is the SEC. Third most likely, Big Ten. Look, the Pac-12 is easy. As long as Oregon and Washington take care of business against their respective in-state rivals this weekend, I absolutely could see a scenario where Washington enters the Pac-12 title game next week 12-0. Oregon comes in at 11-1, extracts revenge, beats the Huskies in the Pac-12 title game. Oregon now is your Pac-12 champ at 12-1. They're in the playoff. And Washington, they're sitting there at 12-1 to now win the Pac-12, but right now on their resume, they have 3 top 16 wins. Pretty damn impressive. 3 top 16 wins, which is a very strong resume for a non-conference champion. That's why I think the most likely team is Washington. I think they are going to beat Washington State. I think Oregon's going to take care of Oregon State. And honestly, I think win or lose, we'll see both of those teams, or Oregon wins, I should say, is really the only way to get both teams in, because if Washington wins and sweeps Oregon, Oregon goes to 10-2, or in that case 11-2, they're out. You get my point. I confused myself there. But I think at this point, you see Washington take care of business, and then Oregon, 2 weeks from now, beat Washington in the Pac-12 title game. Really strong chance Pac-12 gets not 1, but 2 teams in the college football playoff. Second on my list in terms of conferences most likely to get multiple teams in, it's the SEC. Because I don't see how, if you go into Atlanta next weekend and you have number 1 Georgia, let's just say Alabama stays at number 8, number 8 Alabama, and Alabama beats Georgia, I don't see how the committee's leaving at least one of those 2 teams out. And I'd say they're leaving both teams out. Alabama beats Georgia, I'll be shocked. There's no way. There's no way the committee's leaving them out. At 12-1 SEC champ, Alabama's back in the playoff. And if you're Georgia then, with 3 wins in the top 21 right now in these latest rankings, you're sitting there saying, okay, we didn't win the SEC, but we were 12-0. Now we're 12-1. 3 wins inside the top 21. That's still a very strong resume, even as a non-conference champion, to claim to be one of the 4 teams remaining to compete for a title. I think absolutely the SEC right now, if you see Alabama beat Georgia, has a very, very strong case to get 2 teams into the college football playoff. And finally, Big Ten, I think, is the least likely, but still have a chance with number 2 Ohio State and right now number 3 Michigan. Just because I do think the loser of this game is, I'll say, 99% eliminated. You have to have some wacky situations happen where all of a sudden we'll look at the loser. I think the more likely loser to get in is Ohio State, because you have a win over Notre Dame. You have a win over Penn State. Both of those 2 teams inside the top 18. So you do have 2 top 18 victories to your name, which obviously is a huge resume boost. But if you're Michigan, I think Michigan is done. I don't see a situation where an 11-1 Michigan, with their only quality win over a Penn State team on the road that people believe in less and less, your strength of schedule is crap, and now you lose the biggest game of the season at home. I don't see any scenario or Michigan losing on Saturday, still finding their way into the college football playoff. I think the only team in that game that has a chance, and again, very minuscule, but has a chance or an argument to still be in the college football playoff despite losing and not making the Big Ten title game, it is Ohio State, and in part, again, because that win over Penn State, but also to that win over Notre Dame as well. But I don't see, like, the situation where the Big Ten gets 2 teams in is Michigan winning on Saturday, winning the Big Ten, and having chaos ensue everywhere else. Absolute chaos, where Ohio State could look at that resume and say, hey, put me in. I'm in. It's slim. It's slim, but you're going to need Georgia to beat Alabama. You're going to need Washington to beat Oregon. And all of a sudden now, that 4th spot, you are looking at really Ohio State versus Texas, which you're going to need Texas to lose as well. I would say most likely, assuming Texas wins the Big 12, I think they would get the nod over Ohio State. So you're going to need Texas to lose the Big 12, or even this weekend. You're going to need Alabama to lose to Georgia. You're going to need Washington to beat Oregon. And you're going to need probably Florida State to lose. If you're Ohio State, if you want a path to get in. A lot of help is needed. Slim, but still you're going to need a lot of help as well. So that's why the Big Ten, they still have a chance with 2 teams, again, in the top 3. But they're going to need, unlike last year where both got in, you're going to need a lot of chaos to ensue here to get the loser of this game in the college football playoff. But now as we're just 2 weeks away, it's realistic. It is very realistic that the Pac-12 or the SEC, especially, could be looking at 2 teams in the 4-team college football playoff. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. Make sure you do check out Hickey's Pickies, or I should say Hick's 5-minute picks that are also on YouTube. Those will be posted on Wednesday. Hey, have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the food. Enjoy the turkey. It's going to be a hell of a college football weekend. Looking forward to it. But you let me know in the comments below. Is Florida State's season over? With them right now dropping out of the top 4, in part because of the Jordan Travis injury, do the Seminoles have any chance, if they're there at 13-0, to be included in the college football playoff? Let me know below.